Hey everybody, it's Brian with Instructional Tech. I'm going to do a quick overview on setting up a 3D print job using Flashprint. So we've got step-by-step instructions in the help article, so you can jump over to the knowledge base and read those instructions there. They pair up with this video as far as getting ready. So once your students have sent you designs, you need to put them into Flashprint, and this is the software that communicates or translates those files for the printer. So I have Flashprint open here. And I'm going to click on load, and I'm going to be prompted to pick a file. So I've got several files here, and so I'm just going to grab this one and hit open. Now sometimes you're hit with this message right away. It says this model is off the platform. Do you want to put it on the platform? This is spatially oriented. It's 3 dimensions, so I'm going to click yes, and that puts it on the platform. Now I'm ready to get to work. So there's a few controls. First of all, I have the view menu selected, and there are some quick actions here. So I can jump to the right side and it will position. What I like to do though is use the scroll. So I'm going to scroll in and scroll out. That changes my zoom. And I can also change my position X, Z up and down, and X and Z are really, and the Y is a little bit harder to do. But you can change your position around. Now that's still not totally helpful because sometimes I want to see up above it. So I'm going to hold the Alt key, or the control key, depending. I'm on a Mac, so mine's actually control, but you use the Alt key, and now I can rotate my position in space to see this whole model. So I tend to work a little bit of an angle, so I'm going to go here, we'll zoom in a little bit, right? And now I can see my model, and I can rotate around it, and I can even go beneath it and see the space on here, right? So that's how you use the view menu. Now when you're setting this up with a group of students, you want to get multiple models. This diagram here is the same size in space as the print bed on the printer. So I'm going to actually load another model. And I'll grab the earbud part of this. This is an earplug model. And notice it drops it right in the middle. Now, I don't want these two things to print on top of each other, and this is where the Move menu comes in. So I'm going to switch to Move. And again, if I click here, some quick commands will come up. So I'm going to select a model. See how they highlight white? So let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to click this part, and it gives me some position information. Now I can click and drag it on the XY axis, and I can position it somewhere else. If I want to raise or lower it, so if I wanted this, let's rotate and look a little bit. It's on the platform right now. If I wanted to raise this, I would actually have to come over here to the menu in the Z axis, and maybe let's set this at 10 millimeters and hit enter, and now you can see it's up off the platform. Now that's not ideal because the printer cannot print off the platform, so the majority of your models you want to make sure they're on the platform. So I've got, and again, if no matter where I click, the model is selected. If I click way over here on the left and drag, it moves that model. So I'm going to switch back to view for a minute. I'm going to change my position. I'll rotate a little bit so I can see both models, and let me zoom back out. Because this is set to the same size, I can position these however I want, and so I want to be able to get as much work on here as I can. So I'm going to kind of come over here and drop them up here into this top corner, and I can keep adding models and changing them and adding more and adding more. So if you're doing a class full of students, you want to make sure you get as many on here as you can. Once everything is done, when you're ready to print, you're going to click on the print menu. You need to make sure your machine type is set to the FlashForge Finder. You want flexible filament as your element or as your material. And you can leave supports enabled because if there's some overhanging thing, it will create some automatic supports there. I'm going to turn the raft off because that adds a layer. So I'll leave it on for now just so you can see it. But it adds a layer that would need to be cut off later. I find it easier to leave off and then work backwards if I need to make changes. For the resolution, leave it at low. If you're doing first runs, leave it low. It will print much faster. As they improve, you can change the resolution, but that also increases the print time, sometimes exponentially. Sometimes later prints can take hours to run because it's much more fine in terms of how it's printing. So I'm going to leave this for low. When you hit OK, it converts your file into this .gx file type. So I'm going to call this one demo. I'll save it on my desktop. You need to be able to find this folder later, or this file later. Put it on my desktop and hit save. And it processes the file, and you can see what it does is it slices that model into layers. And you can actually see the layers. There's a slider on the left, so I'm going to drag down. You can see the individual layers that this will print. So this large fat platform here, this is called a raft. In this case, I don't want one because this will probably print okay. If you have really tiny pieces or very small amount of material touching the bottom, you might want a raft. It's some trial and error. But I'm going to go back. I'm going to hit print again. I'm going to turn my raft off, and I'm going to hit OK. I'll save it as demo again on my desktop. That .gx file is what I want. Yes, replace it, please. And when it processes, it puts a little outline here just to define the area. Sometimes you're going to want to move these. So like if I was actually doing this one, you can see I'm really close to the edge. I would probably move these over a little bit just to avoid my print going off the side. But that looks pretty good. And excuse me, I can check my layers and see how it's printing. And over here in the top right, it gives you some estimated information. These are pretty small. It'll maybe take about 10 minutes. Once that file is saved, you're going to go on to step 2 where you actually put it into the printer, but we're going to save that for a different video. Thanks for watching.